Hi, this is Joe Chambers. Welcome to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage. Today's show, we revisit someone that we initially interviewed, one of the very, very first interviews I did back in 2004. I flew up to New York and interviewed for the first time my good friend now, Will Lee. So we revisited each other for another interview 18 years later. And we talk about how Will got his start, what made him want to start playing music. He actually started on drums and then switched over to bass. And we talk about the new band he's got now called the Other Band of Brothers, I saw them when they were here in Nashville. They were incredible. If you get a chance to see them, wherever they are, it's worth it. And of course, most people know about the Fab Faux. If you're a Beatles fan, there's just nothing better than going and seeing the Fab Faux. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you don't miss any of our new content. Once again, part one of my good friend, Will Lee. Welcome back to Musicians Hall of Fame Backstage with my good buddy, Will Lee. Will, we've done this before, but it's been 18 years ago.
Joe, I hardly knew ye back then.
We didn't know each other.
I know.
We were strangers, and it was a little weird.
We've done better since then.
Yes. But you invited me to your Chelsea Street. You still live there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we did the interview, and then we went and had dinner with your beautiful wife, Sandrine, who's a artist as well, but pictures instead of music, right?
That's right. She's a great photographer.
Yeah.
And a great, great gal.
Yeah, has to be.
You'd have to be a saint to be with me.
Yeah. So anyway, let me see. Where can we start with you?
Well, you want to work backwards from last night? I got to see you last night, which is
let's just
rare.
Let's just do last night. Yeah.
So,
thanks for the tickets, and Linda, my wife, and I loved it. Your band is just stupid great.
You're too kind.
No, man, that was awesome. I really didn't know what to expect, and I would pick out, say, the guitar player or the keyboard player or the sax or whatever, but everybody was the drummer. But everybody was equally phenomenal.
Yeah, the great Keith Carlock. He makes everybody sound good when he's on drums.
He was kind of like a John Bonham kind of a guy. I mean, he was killing it, man.
He's got a great, he's played with Mayer, he's played with Sting, he's been with Steely Dan all these last, 15, 20 years.
I can believe it.
He's played with Toto. He was talking about, some short run that he did. He's just like the go-to guy. And now he lives in your town.
No, really? I didn't know that. Yeah. Well, actually, I knew a couple of them did, but who else lives here?
Jeff Coffin, saxophonist.
Saxophone, okay. But
it was a big party up there.
So, when I was watching you last night, I was just thinking, okay, like you don't have enough music in your head already. I mean, you're doing the Fab Faux. You've done so many sessions. You don't even know what you did, do you? Really?
Sometimes I find out and I can't believe it.
It's unreal, and then y'all. This music was not easy. I mean, this was.
Tell me about it.
I mean, this was crazy great stuff. How do you keep all that in your head, man? And who wrote all that stuff?
Well, I had a tune. One of the tunes was mine, and the tune that was dedicated to John Lewis, Representative John Lewis. Yeah. And we're right on John Lewis Boulevard over
there.
That's
right. Yeah.
It started with the two Jeffs, basically. The guys on either end, Jeff Coffin, saxophonist, and of course Jeff Babco, the keyboard player, decided to put this band together. And they had material, and that was for the first album that we actually recorded here in Nashville.
Where at?
Over at Blackbird.
Oh, yeah, great.
And when it came time to do the second album, everybody was feeling a little bit more confidently at home with this organization. So I felt confident enough to try to give a stab at some songwriting myself. Ended up with 3 songs on the record. And So now, now it's very much more of a cooperative venture, than it used to be because I barely even knew these guys, and now we're all like the band of other brothers.
Man, y'all just like were just synced up. You'd think you've been together forever.
Well, you were talking about the experience of doing one kind of music versus another kind of music. And I might have said this to you before, but I always was jazzed at the idea of, jazz players thinking I'm a rock guy, and rock players think of me as a jazz guy. There's something about that I just like to walk in a room kind of armed with that other yang to the yin, to the yin, sort of.
Yeah. So, what category would you put?
I like music.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I was
anything that
thinking
grooves.
like Alan Holdsworth type, or Billy Cobham, or Tony Williams, or something like that was what it was kind of sounding like, pieces of it, but it was uniquely different though.
Yeah. Well, those guys as writers, I mean, they come up with stuff I would never dream of in a million years. So I was kind of even surprised that they accepted what I was offering for this latest record. I didn't know if my stuff was up to the level or what, but I just gave it a stab, and they made it come to life.
Well, it was great. Enjoyed it.
I'm glad you guys had a good time. The audience was really.
Yeah, they were. I don't know if you could hear them while you were playing, but they broke into applause all night long.
Couldn't hear that, but in all. In any situation, in any live situation, the audience is really the other member of the band.
Yeah.
So they can really make it or break it for the confidence level
Yeah.
that you have on stage. So that's why it's often a lot. Often a lot less harrowing to play in front of 75,000 people, like I did at Live Aid, at those kinds of gigs, as opposed to a club where there are 3 people in there and you can see every one of them and reading their minds and going, oh boy, they heard that clam that I just made.
Yeah.
And, in those other more impersonal situations, it's just you going for it. You don't have to really experience that, them looking up your nose hairs thing.
Yeah, I've asked a lot of people in the past, what's more fun or what's more difficult, to play in front of a small club or play the big arenas, and oftentimes they say the big arenas are easier because you don't really.
It's just you and the cats,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah. I heard Daryl Jones being asked that question not that long ago for an interview, and he pretty much put it out the same way.
Either that or it doesn't matter. It's the same. I play as hard for 2 as I do 200,000 or whatever. So.
I think the 3 people in the room appreciate that when
Yeah.
you're playing for 10,000 and
Yeah.
there's only 3 of them.
And in another way, one of the things that you know who Charlie McCoy is, right?
Sure.
Yeah, Charlie did something really, really great. I thought it was trying to define Nashville studio musicians. He said, it doesn't matter. The studio musicians in Nashville play just as hard for the guy that came in, or gal that came in from Kansas that hawked their farm to do a demo, as we would for Garth or for Dylan or whoever. It doesn't matter who, they give it all. And he thought that's what made what they do here special.
I agree. I think it's because you just never know what's going to end up happening to that piece of material that you're working on.
Yeah,
The possibilities.
Plus, just wanting to be square with the people that if they're willing to get up from a microphone, they're not going to make fun of them. They're going to do the best they can do.
Yeah, you might as well kick ass.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Fab Faux, y'all just y'all are still rocking.
Yeah, I think we're 23 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another great band you're in.
It's a great challenge to try to bring those Beatles records to the stage. And every time you try to disassemble those gorgeous tracks that those guys did, you learn something new each time, which is really that says a lot about the depth of their music. There's always more to learn.
I was interviewing Artemis Powell, the drummer from Skinner, and he asked me if I'd seen the new documentary that was on Disney.
Yeah, the Get Back thing.
Yeah, and it was amazing to actually see them creating
Wasn't that great?
music in film.
To be a fly on that wall to see the creative process.
Who would have ever thought you could have actually seen that creative process happening? You know, it's just amazing. You know.
Yeah, the give and take and the sort of uncomfortable, the balance of like navigating each other's sort of, willingness to try to get somewhere, and then you may have a slightly different feeling about it, and then, in the end, the end product, it isn't even, I mean, if it was a compromise, it would be weak sounding.
Yeah.
But it was more of an agreement to, okay, yeah, I think your idea is great, that kind of stuff. The approval of the other guy, and that's gold in a band of guys that are that powerful,
Mm-hmm.
And Ringo throughout the process was just beyond team player. I mean, not only is he creating the thing that defines the feeling of each song, in that James Jamerson way, what he did for Motown. What
Right.
Ringo did with even more patience than that was sit through while these guys worked out their parts, messed up takes. He was always treating it as if it was the one, the take, and giving everything with humor.
Why did he get slammed by people that really probably don't know anything about playing at all? But
Well, you just answered it because they don't know.
I mean, you know what I'm
about
saying,
playing.
though. So they were always, and I never got that. I never could.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just I don't even know what that is, because if you're really doing any listening, if all you want is a massive drum solo where the whole kit goes upside down in the middle of the set, you're going to be really disappointed in Ringo's very not happening playing, man.
Yeah.
But
again, he was left-handed, right? And it just gave
Yeah.
him a different feel.
imagine being the songwriter that needed something special back there from the drum kit. That's your guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably know every song in their repertoire, don't you? Pretty much.
I'm learning them.
What's
There's
the,
always more.
what's the most difficult one for the band?
Oh my God. This is interesting because I think that, okay, so the Fab Faux, the idea of the Fab Faux was to literally try to bring the records to the stage, if you will, meaning you want to hear all the textures, all the sounds, all the parts, right? So, and there's magic in all that stuff. And in order to do it correctly, if we're considering all the records, you're going to have strings. You're going to have a horn section, once in a while a harpist, And believe it or not, those are the songs that are very much easier to perform because of all the other support around you than the really pared down simple rhythm section stuff that they did in the early days. Because that requires, it's all you. It's all just just guitars, drums, and voices.
Yeah.
And you got to make that believable with the same kind of energy that they made those records with when they were in their teens almost, basically.
So you say The Night Before is a much harder song to play than The Walrus? Or
Well, performance-wise, maybe not putting the pieces together initially. That takes a bit of doing to find all the elements to do a thing like Walrus or a big production piece. But yeah, once you've learned it, it kind of plays itself compared to really having to deliver a basic piece of music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I shut my eyes listening to you guys play it. It's like just what you said. It's like you brought it just to the stage live.
Yeah, on a good night, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You need the help we have a great front of house engineer too, who knows the music.
Yeah.
Often way better than we do.
Yeah.
He's a Beatlist, so he
Well, all
tries
those
to.
little things that you wouldn't, just the cowbell at the right place or whatever percussion or something that's an intricate part of the song. If you don't hear it, it's not there.
That's why we have 5 guys, instead of 4, because I think the mistake that early Beatles bands would make would be They want to look like the band, so they only have 4 people up there. So now you're going to miss that great keyboard overdub. You're going to miss that great percussion
Family
part.
brought in
I love all that stuff.
Billy Preston, you know, and
Yeah, man. They wanted to have a 5-piece Beatles
Yeah.
band.
yeah. So, in the beginning, you were born in Texas,
Yes.
and your dad was a professor, music professor.
Music educator for sure.
And moved to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where your career started at, really was in Florida, wasn't it?
Well, it actually, like many people, it started the night that the Beatles played the Ed Sullivan
Yeah.
show. And I was still in Texas at that time. And all that went through my head is, okay, how can I recreate this feeling, you know, and be a part of something that's like that? And I was a drummer at the time. So, of course, I became, you know, Mr. Ringo for a moment. And then all the kids our age, it was really funny because kids our age didn't, you know, the bass guitar was a really new instrument, first of all. It was really a young instrument. It had only been invented like 10, 12 years
electric
before.
bass. Right.
Yeah, electric bass guitar. And so kids our age, which was 11, you know, really didn't understand the function of that instrument. They knew about ring, ring. They would have been happy to have a tennis racket in their hand and just pretend, you know. And so drums and guitars were flying off the shelves of music stores. But bass-wise, kids our age just really didn't care that much to know what the function of the bass was, you know. So at some point, as a drummer, I was looking around our band, listening to us play and sing and whatever. I was the lead singer in the band, and I was listening to us, and I'm going, you know, it's kind of empty sounding compared to what it would be if we had a bass. So since we can't find anybody our age, why don't I just switch over to bass and we'll get a drummer and we'll have a full-sounding professional band. And worst mistake of my life as the lead singer.
Oh,
Because, man, was that much more difficult
Yeah.
to do than playing drums and singing.
Yeah.
I thought, because drums, you know, no offense to drummers who are going to say, it's harder than you think. Well, drums are kind of a repeating pattern for the most part, if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not showboating too much, if you're just playing the groove. But the bass has always got this moving pattern, right? So to try to deliver a message with your voice while that's happening, since then, it was the worst mistake of my life. I should have just kept on the drums.
again, think about McCartney. I mean, how
Oh, well, you have to.
unreal.
Yeah, and then you realize, okay, well, if he can do it, let me keep trying.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you want to be a Beatle, you got to work hard at it. You know, and those guys were not afraid of working hard at stuff. And there's a lot of tunes that McCartney wouldn't do, the Beatles wouldn't do because of how difficult the bass part was. I understand that they wouldn't do Day Tripper live. He hated doing Day Tripper live. I read this. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I get it because that song's got quite a bit of stuff going on while you're trying to sing lyrics, you know. It's pain. It's a pain in the ass.
What's the most fun song to play for you? For the
Oh.
Beatles.
Got it. It's different every night. You mentioned the night before. I love playing that
I
song.
love that song, man.
I know. I love it too. I love playing It Won't Be Long. God, you caught me off guard because, you know, there's songs that make me cry while I'm singing them, like She's Leaving Home.
Yeah. Oh God, what?
You know.
How could they write that at that age? You know, I mean, the
Amazing, right?
right.
I mean, McCartney at such a young age had such empathy that he could write those tear jerkers,
Yeah.
you know, like yesterday.
Yeah. Oh,
She's leaving home for no one.
yeah.
Even Eleanor Rigby, there's so much.
Yeah, it's just so deep. I mean, it's just, in it, like I was saying this about, I love the Zombies too. We had them the other day, but their stuff, their production does not sound dated to me at all. I mean, it sounds great today. The Beatles, everything they did sounds great. Some bands, especially during the 80s, they used a lot of electronic keyboards and stuff.
How about drum machines?
And yeah, it just, you know, there's still great songs, but had they used guitars, say, maybe instead of the synthesizer in some cases, I think it still sound relevant, you know, but it's immediately dated when you hear certain sounds. But
You know, I don't know if this ties into what you're saying, but I was telling somebody earlier today about a conversation I had with Earth, Wind and Fire's bassist Verdine White.
another band that's unreal.
And, you know, we were talking about the pressure of when the red light goes on in the recording studio. And what, you know, how you have to shut your mind off from the realization that what we're doing right now is going on permanent record into history forever and ever and ever. So as soon as you get bogged down in those thoughts, you're going to choke.
Right.
You know, that's so bad for the music. So the whole point of being there is to do something that, okay, so it is going to be permanent. It is going to be there forever. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to sabotage that so it's awful forever, or are you going to dig in and be in the moment, have a good time, and produce something that feels really, really good. And from that conversation, I came up with the realization that a groove is a groove is a groove. If it feels good now, it's going to feel good in perpetuity. You know, it's just going to always feel good. If it feels good at this moment, if it feels awful right now, you've sabotaged the session.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.